Vanessa Bogenholm is a personal trainer. She's really, really great to talk to. Her book, it's Your Body, Move It, Love It, Live. We talk about, personal training. She's a runner. She used to coach tennis as well. And she, very, very interesting past. She's got a nonprofit. She's in Silicon Valley there, and she's got a nonprofit where she helps. It's called Exercise in the Streets. But just a great attitude, great success stories from her clients on personal training. Really enjoyed my conversation with her. Very different take on body mass index, by the way, on BMI. Many people love it. People don't like it. It's very interesting, her take on it. I enjoyed that. We also talk about diet and sleep. I would throw one tease out to you. The Unabomber does make an appearance at one point. Vanessa Bogenholm, you're going to enjoy the conversation. I certainly did. Thanks for listening. Hi, I'm Joey Pinz. People ask me, how did I lose 130 pounds? The quick answer is always discipline. I started my business, wasn't paying attention to my health, was eating too much, drinking too much sweets. My daughter was born. Next thing I know, I'm pre-diabetic, I have hypertension. I knew something had to change. Discipline. I, like many of you, have faced many challenges in your career, in your family, in your life, in your faith. How did you attack them? How did you approach them? How did you solve them, hopefully? It all had to have some degree of discipline. I'm also asked, how did you found and start a tech business that lasted over 25 years? Discipline. I was committed to it, enjoyed technology, didn't enjoy some aspects of it, but knew it was necessary. Discipline. Our podcast mission, how do we use discipline to better ourselves and society? Join me, please, as I talk to interesting people and discuss how they use discipline in their family, in their passion, in their careers, and how it helped them. Our podcast vision, growth through learning from others. Joey Pinz Discipline Conversations. It'll be light and serious. Join us, please. Thank you for consideration. Interesting insight on LinkedIn. Vanessa, so nice to meet you.
Thank you. So good to be here, Joe.
I really appreciate it. How are we going to get America fit again?
Wow. So this is such a personal situation here for me because we're in this COVID situation. And whatever you want to think about vaccines or anything else or requirements to get into a place, we know the number one reason people die of COVID is obesity. When even Boris Johnson, for gosh sakes, will say this and lost 25 pounds after he came out of the hospital with COVID because he saw that everybody else in there was like him and severely overweight. But we can't get anyone in our government to acknowledge this. This is a tragedy. We all know the problems with obesity in this country. 75% of our population is either obese or overweight. And we want to glorify body positivity. Well, I'm positive you're overweight. You don't just physically hurt, you mentally hurt. And you can try to put all the overweight women in bikinis and call them hot till you're blue in the face. And I know they physically and mentally hurt and don't want to be that way. Wow, that was a great way to start a podcast. Go for it. There we go.
Well, it's the most, I'm going to say it's one of the top 3 most pressing things in our country. You're right. No politician will talk about this. With everything that we heard from our government when this pandemic come out, we heard, 6 feet, wear a mask, stay inside. Nobody said, hey, go for a walk, eat less. Nobody talks about obesity, and especially the statistics on COVID fatality coupled with obesity are shocking. They're well into the 90s.
Yes. And so I'm not sure why this is. In the beginning of COVID, I don't remember the woman's name. She was a doctor out of New York. She was one of the first New York doctors. And she said on 60 Minutes, the number one factor of people dying in the hospital was obesity. And I thought, wow, we're going to go in a new direction. Because since I've been a personal trainer, I've just watched the statistics go up and up. For the last 3 years in a row, The average age of American death has come down because why? Because we're killing ourselves by eating too much.
Mm.
What is this? So we know that eating is not just about because food tastes great and isn't it wonderful to be with friends and celebrate your birthday. This is an emotional connection that people have with food. So we need to look at that emotional problem that we refuse to acknowledge in this society most of the time until what? People get shot, people commit suicide. We don't acknowledge that people
Hmm.
get depressed, people get anxious, people go to pills now. Since COVID has started, I usually carry between 30 and 35 clients. That's a full schedule for me. Now, my clients, I always had 2 or 3 on some kind of psychiatric medication. I now have 6 and 7.
Wow.
One that's gone to the 3rd medication. So we now know mental illness is becoming so much more prevalent since we now are social creatures who became isolated. So what happens then? People ate and ate and ate, or took medication of drugs, or drank too much. This has really brought out the fact that we mentally have problems and we don't know how to fix them or how to deal with them as people.
I hate to even say this, I hate to think it, but, fast food lobby, drug lobby, these people are making money from obesity.
Yeah.
Also, even politicians, you know, since 75% of the people who vote for them are obese or overweight, they're not gonna mention it because, their constituency will be upset with them for stigmatizing them. Are these the
Yeah.
reasons?
Right. And so I think it's really interesting. Like when a client first comes to see me, I am 100% honest. No matter if you want to get out of a wheelchair, if you want to lose 100 pounds, whatever it
Mm,
is, I'm going to call it as I see it. And you have to be willing to take it and acknowledge the honesty, right? If you've walked in and I can see, let's say you're normally 160 pounds, 170 pounds, you walk in, I see you've gained 5 pounds. I can tell by your skin complexion you haven't been drinking your water. I'm going to acknowledge you right up the front. That's my job. Honesty is super difficult for people to do, right?
mm,
To admit that we're not perfect, we're all working on ourselves on a daily basis. This is such a great thing. When you hear the really successful people in our world, the Elon Musk, what did he talk about? It's not a failure. I learned something. Be willing to fail, right? You have to be willing to try. We all become a situation, we put our kids in situations where they don't want to fail. Well, guess what? I fail all the time.
mm.
I just have to learn from it and move forward. We do that with weight loss. I've never had a client walk in, poof, all of a sudden, a year later, they're down 100 pounds. That's not how it works. In fact, to lose 100 pounds, which I've helped 12 people do, you need to commit for at least 3 years. And I always tell you, it's 3 years. And you're going to go up, you're going to go down, you're going to have good times, you're going to go bad. Just hopefully the general direction is great and you feel better all the time. But guess what? There'll all be those days that you're going to say, wow, I hate my job. I hate my spouse. I'm going to eat a bunch of food because it mentally makes me feel better.
Right.
So we have to acknowledge that that happens. It happens to all of us. All of us do things to fix ourselves when we don't feel well. But that honesty, boy, that's hard to come by now. It's difficult.
Yeah, it's this world of kind of political correctness and morality, or what do they say, social justice, and yeah, it's so hard to just you've got to be honest sometimes. Do people generally come to you after they had a kind of a come to Jesus moment when when they bottomed out? Is that typically when they come to you?
No, it's actually not. Usually they come when they've failed a few times.
Hmm.
Most of my clients come to me from a referral from somebody else.
Hmm.
That's 90% of my clients are from referrals. So they've tried 2 or 3 times on their own to lose weight or to deal with their arthritis in their bodies, whatever it may be, and they failed. And then they'll ask someone at the office or someone they know or someone they'll know has seen me, or lately it's been a couple of people who've got the book and have tried. And so my book talks about people who come to see me, whether they be wheelchair people or obese, and they see themselves in the book and go, wow, this is someone that actually understands what I'm not getting the guy that's the bodybuilder coming in, right? I don't have a marathoner all the time. I have people that want to run a marathon. I help lots of people run their first 5K or a marathon.
Hmm.
But I don't have that athlete come in. I have people that have tried and failed, said running hurt, I don't like any sports, whatever it may be. And those are the people that come in to see me, and that I and clients usually don't, unless they move away, they don't leave. So, I mean, I have clients that have been with me for 10 years. So it's just, they want to maintain, they want to feel good, they want to function on a day to day basis without pain. I think I talk about in my book a lot about the number one reason someone comes to see me is either mental or physical pain.
Hmm.
One of the two, usually both. And it's always interesting, especially when someone comes in, oh no, I just want to lose 20 or 30 pounds. And I say that the first time. And by the third time, I've already seen the pain in their hip joint. I've seen the pain that they have emotionally because their body isn't what they want it to be. And then the pain issue has to be addressed. Because if I can get you out of mental pain, because all of a sudden now you're not going to food first, guess what? It's this reciprocal thing. Physically and mentally, they go together. If I can help you with one, you'll do better with the other, and you'll understand how they both rely on each other.
So at 13 years old, you're 200 pounds, you're frustrated, you go on your first run, it's 23 steps. Was that your come to Jesus? Was that your bottom?
Yes, that was my bottom. That was my complete and total bottom. I really, I think it's interesting to note that I didn't know that I really was the fat girl.
Mm.
I don't know, when I was, 10, 11, 12, 13, even though I was the big fat girl in school and the last to be chosen, on the softball during PE or whatever, I guess because I'd been that way and my family wasn't athletic, it was just normal. It just wasn't a big deal. And I think I was so used to always being the slow fat one out there that it didn't strike me as anything
Mm.
unusual.
Mm.
So, when the basketball coach said, you probably want to get fit before high school starts. And I went, oh, cool. Frank Shorter's a runner. I'm going to run like Frank Shorter. Watch me go. And I didn't go very far. But yes, and so I realized, wow, I am that fat person. And what's wrong with me? I mean, why? Why am I think what got me more, because I've talked about it so much now since the book came out, it wasn't so much the physical aspect that was such a huge breakthrough for me. It was the mental aspect
Hmm.
that I knew I always gave up at everything.
Hmm.
I didn't work hard at school. I didn't work hard at anything in my life before I started to run. I just quit. It was hard. I quit.
Wow.
So I work with so many teenagers now and I see that and I laugh because I get it. I get that. It's just hard. I'm going to walk away. Well, guess what? I don't let you walk away, right? And you don't set goals. I don't set goals for my clients that are unrealistic. I don't ever let a client walk in and say, I'm losing 10 pounds this month. No, you're not. You're
Hmm.
going to lose 1 pound this week. And if you lose a pound and a half, then you're thrilled. But if you say you're going to lose 10 pounds this month and you only lose five, you feel like a failure
Hmm.
because you set an unrealistic goal. So I always set realistic short term goals that people can achieve. I don't care what your goal is in 2 years from now. What's your goal this week? What is your goal today? If your goal today is to not eat any potato chips, let's see if we can do that, right? Let's keep it really doable so that you feel like a success in life.
Well, well said. I know when I've been an athlete all my life, and then I started a business, and then, before you know it, I'm working 14, 16-hour days, and I visit the doctor and he says, "Joe, you're pre-diabetic and you're
Mhm.
pre-hypertension, and my daughter was just born. You're not gonna," and I'm 340 pounds. So, that was my bottom. Once my daughter was involved and I thought I wasn't going to see
Mhm.
her, see her graduate or
Yep.
whatever. So I just, committed and,
Mhm.
worked out and ate less and was disciplined about it. But, um, you're right. I didn't feel that different, when I got that heavy. But as I started losing weight, I thought, wow, I feel much better. You just kind of get used to it. Your body just kind of, I don't know, mentally you're just there. But it was
You
when
adjust.
you adjust.
You
Yeah,
adjust.
yeah, you compensate. Yeah, when I see pictures of myself, I yell at my friends and I say, "Why didn't you tell me I was that fat? It's your fault." I know, of course
Yes,
not.
of course.
But yeah, that's um and you just change. And of course, you have to know the statistics on this. People go on these diets and then they just gain it back.
Yes, and I think that's really the most fascinating thing about, No, I mean, nothing's funnier than, you got someone at work that comes in and goes, "Oh, yeah, well, I lost 60 pounds in the keto diet and I feel fantastic." And
Mm,
I go, "Great. Let's check your cholesterol level.
right.
It's gotta be fun, right? And, oh, wow, you can't even breathe really well? Why do you think that is? Do you have any idea how your heart works with your lungs? Do you have any clue?" Right?
Hmm.
And they get all defensive. And then what happens? They eat chips or cake, and then it's like an obsession and they can't stop, right? Because their body's been craving things. Now they're mentally, their brain wanted a little bit of sugar, whatever. But they didn't learn any control in their life, right? That's why I never put clients on this recipe of a diet because that's not teaching you control
Hmm.
or what your body needs whatsoever. I mean, one of the best days ever, I had a woman who, like, I would never, ever have suggested any kind of diet to her. She was always about 20 pounds overweight, but really was okay with it, just knew she didn't exercise, didn't want to die young. But I kind of changed her. And the best day she had was she had gone out to do her 3-mile walk, which she has to do 3 times a week. And she said, Vanessa, I walked in the house and I realized I wanted an orange. And I go, "Did you eat an orange?" "No, I actually had a sandwich." And I go, "Wait a minute. Your body was
Hmm.
saying, I need vitamin C."
Hmm.
And she goes, "Wow, how silly. Why would I not had some fruit?" And I go, "I don't know, but next time, realize your body talks to you all day long. Listen to what it says. It's a machine. Treat your body like a fine-tuned car. You take care of it, you make sure the right fluids in there, everything's super clean, right? And then all of a sudden you feel better. But pay attention to what your body says to you."
Yeah, what lies do we tell ourselves and tell our trainers, by the way? I mean, that you must have heard it all.
Well, I've heard it and I think it's pretty funny.
Yeah.
I had a woman. She was very interesting to me. She was a stay-at-home mom. Her husband was super successful. They'd been together since they were young, and she was now 60, 70 pounds overweight. And she came in, and I couldn't even stare at her for very long. And I go, "Okay, so you need to sit down for a moment, and this is going to be painful. I need to know what drugs you're on."
Hmm.
Because she had gotten diet drugs from a doctor,
Oof.
and she was so amphetamine out that it was wild. And she said to me, "But I lost 10 pounds in these drugs and I don't want to go off of them." And here was this 42, 44-year-old woman. And I went, "Okay, I can't work you out this way because your heart rate is out of control, right? Yes, you will lose weight on these drugs. You will also not sleep and you will drive everybody around you insane. So, what do you want to do?" And I think this was like really hard. And she starts to cry because in her mind, this was the only thing she knew to do to lose the weight,
Mm.
right? But I think it's really hard for people sometimes. We convince ourselves that everything's okay. We do it in relationships, we do it in our jobs. This is what we do. I never say to people, you have to be honest with everybody else. You have to be honest with me because I have to know what to do with you. And try to be honest with yourself. And I do this with journaling with everybody. I tell everyone, I'm not asking you to journal what your day happened. Write a sentence or two. It was a good day, it was a bad day. I ate 3 Big Macs, whatever you did. Just try to convince yourself that you can be honest with yourself, right? And then you'll be shocked at how you learn to laugh at yourself and move forward.
Can you outwork a bad diet?
No, you cannot even work out on a bad diet.
Mm.
So every day, my plan of my food is what am I doing tomorrow? Not
Hmm.
today, but tomorrow. So if I'm going to go out on a long run tomorrow, 12, 13 miles, so my normal calorie intake has to be for my normal day somewhere in the vicinity of 3,000 to 3,500 calories for me to maintain my weight. My weight is about 137. I'm 5'11". So if I eat less, I'm not going to have the energy in the morning, right? And if I eat the wrong kinds of things, I'm going to feel sluggish.
Mm.
I do not eat carbohydrates in the evening. I eat them at lunchtime. So I have a whole way that I have my diet scheduled, and it's all about the next day and the next day. So if I have a marathon on Sunday, my food starts to be calculated on Thursday,
Hmm.
so that everything is perfect by the time I get to show up to run that race. The last thing I want is my stomach to dictate my race to me or me not to have the, glycolic reserves that I need to finish whatever race I'm doing. And that's the way I function. I think one of the most interesting things is alcohol. I love to drink. I
Hmm.
used to be a sommelier before I became personal trainer. I love wine. I do not drink at least 3 days before running a race.
Mm.
Drinking just 2 glasses of wine raises my heartbeat 10 beats a minute,
Wow.
even on my normal runs. So that means I'm making my heart work too much, which means I will run slower. So everything is about the plan of the next day.
Very interesting. Do you recommend or do you like intermittent fasting?
Yes, I do. And so there was a big health study that just came out from Duke University showing about how it really helps with diabetes. Duh, right? So, intermittent fasting, I actually only eat for about 8 hours of the day. Me personally, it's what
Me too.
works best for me.
Mhm.
I try to figure out for everybody what works best for them. I have a guy that every Wednesday is his fasting day. And this way, he keeps the family happy. One of the things you need to consider in any diet or exercise program is your family life. That is
Hmm.
the most important thing. You want to be with your family. So, for your wife and kids, you would need to eat dinner with them, right? Then you got to figure out how you're going to do that,
Right.
right? So, I always ask people about their family life. If Sunday dinner at mom's house is this big thing of food, you have to figure out how you're going to tackle that without offending anybody, because social reasons are the reason we live as humans. So for him, he doesn't eat until 11 or 12 o'clock during the day because he has dinner with his family at 6, right? It's important to his wife. The last thing his wife liked was when he gave up eating dinner, right? And I said to him, well, why didn't you say that to me? Let's figure it out. Okay, you don't eat till 11. You're not hungry in the morning anyway. You're a tech guy sitting at a computer. Who cares? You're eating at 11, you're eating again at 2 maybe, and then you eat it at 6, and he feels amazing, lost 44 pounds. Now, Joe, here's what I do with people when they lose weight. I have weight vests.
Hmm.
So when people hit certain time frames, 40 pounds is a big one. 40 pounds is definitely a big one. So you get to walk into my studio and I put a 40-pound weight vest on you and make you work out with that
Wow.
40-pound weight vest. And everybody's in pain in 5 and 10 minutes. Like they can't even walk on a treadmill for 5 minutes with going, okay, this hurts my knees. Really? You're shocking. Like, no, it can't. What do you mean you can't lift anything up when you're 40 pounds overweight? I mean, and I think it's such an eye
Hmm.
opener of the damage they were doing to
Great.
their body when they were overweight.
Yeah, that's a great, great exercise. I remember thinking that when I lost a lot of the weight, I think a gallon jug is like 6 pounds or something. I forget. And
Yeah,
some
it's 8.
people at my gym puts as it eight. Yeah, some people put it on me. Yeah, and it was very eye opening. Uh, so I started intermittent fasting about 9 months ago, and by the way, how I did it is I went to get my checkup, and I'm from the Northeast, and my doctor weighed me, and she says to me, "Hey Joe, did your Peloton break?" This was her way. This is her way of telling
Yeah.
me, okay, message received. So, the intermittent fasting, I stopped eating after 5, and you get
Uh-huh.
hungry. Your body starts tricking you. You're going to starve. You got to eat. You've got to eat, and you go to sleep. And when you wake up, you're not even hungry anymore. It
That's right.
just all goes away. And so then I don't eat until about noon. And then, I
Yep.
eat, for in between those 6 hours or so. And,
Mhm.
it lost the weight and now you maintain. And what are your thoughts on BMI, body mass index?
Oh, well, it's really heavy. I mean, and to me, it's really it's allowing people to be overweight. I think this is a fascinating thing about. So, I run a lot of races. I run the 5K to the marathon. I like
Mm,
to win at every level that I do.
wow.
It's just kind of my personality, and my weeks are made about what my race is that's coming up. So let's be honest about weight. I race on the track at 132, 133 for a 5K. It's a little too light for me to do a marathon, about 137, 138. I feel better in that steadier state to pull
Wow.
off of because
Wow.
I don't need to pull any fat. I don't need to burn fat because right now my body, I can actually feel when it switches from going from the glycolic reserves, which is 2,000 calories more or less in your body and your liver and your muscles that your body can maintain, which means I can go to sleep at night, right? I'm going to burn 600, 700 calories while I'm sleeping. I run 10 miles or so without having any food. And then at that point, about mile 11, 12, my body has to switch over to fat burning,
Hmm.
right? And then if I'm doing a marathon or doing a long run on a weekend. Now, if I'm running a 5K on the track, I'm not switching over to fat burning. I don't need that fat reserve, right?
Wow.
I'm only running 18, 19 minutes on the track, right? So I need to be as light as I possibly can be to get that job done as quickly as possible. Because we know if I hand you a gallon of milk and say, go run with this, you're going to run slower. So I actually maintain my weight by that, by what race is coming up. And my really comfortable spot right now is about 137, 138. Now, most people would say, that's ridiculous. You're 5'11". And I said, yeah, and I'm a size 4. Why did it become
Hmm.
okay for women to be size 10 at 5'11"? Now, back when we are neither one of us are children, back when we were kids, we didn't have any of this, right? But the normal thing you heard was at 5 feet, that's 100 pounds. You add 5 pounds for every inch. So that was basically a woman who was 5'7", 5'8". She was either between 125 and 135. Now with BMI, that's 160, 170. Are you
Hmm.
kidding me? We've allowed women to be 25, 30 pounds over and say it's okay. So the BMI for my height goes anywhere from like 137 to 175 to hit in that BMI normal range. Oh my God, at 175, I'm a women's size like 14 or so. That is not a healthy weight for any female at 5'11". And don't tell me muscle weighs more than fat. I think that's the funniest thing ever. I can bench press 200 pounds. I don't look overly muscular, and I'm more muscle than fat, and I'm sure not weighing 175 pounds. So, yes, I think we allow people to be heavier. But everybody has, you went through huge weight loss. You knew your body plateaued, right? Your body said, okay, I'll lose for 3 weeks. I'll plateau for 3 weeks. I'll
Hmm.
lose for 3 weeks.
Hmm.
And it got to a couple of places it wanted to stay for almost 2 or 3 months, right? And it's very, very mentally difficult. What's the best way to break through a plateau? Well, you know it is. It's fasting. If I fast, my body's going to break through that plateau, realize it has enough fat reserves to go through, and you'll break through that plateau one more time.
Hmm.
You look at these Kenyan runners who are 5'7", 5'8" men at 125 pounds, they can get through a marathon, and you tell me you need to have all that fat on your body? I don't think so,
Hmm.
right? I mean, go to an NBA basketball game. These guys are tall and thin.
Hmm.
These aren't football player size. They're tall and thin. And guess what? They're doing more exercise in that 3 hours than most of us do in a week. So yes, I think we've just allowed, we want people to be comfortable, and we say, oh, it's okay to be 5 or 10 pounds overweight, and it's not okay.
Now, how about some of these? You mentioned football players that are, that
Mhm.
are maybe 6 feet or 6'2", six
Mm.
three, and they've, 6 or 7%, 8% body fat, but they're still obese on the BMI scale.
They're a huge amount of muscle. And so let's talk about football players. It's tough on the heart, right? Same
Mm.
with bodybuilders. These guys are, so that's a lot of blood pump. There's a reason the word pump is used, by Arnold Schwarzenegger. To get the blood to pump to those muscles is a lot of work. These guys are having a lot of calories and they're doing a lot of work, super hard on the heart. That's why bodybuilders tend to die, and football players, from massive heart attacks at a very young age.
Wow.
So I allow everybody for a few weeks to not wear a heart monitoring watch. But then I become kind of an ass about it,
Mm.
honestly. I want everyone to understand how their heart works and what it should be doing. If you're going out for a walk and your heart rate's at 135, 140, wow. Do you really think your heart needs to work that hard for walking? If
Right.
it does, we got to slow everything down and get you fit, right? But the last thing we want is for you to get on a bike and for it to be 200 beats a minute, because now you're uncomfortable and don't feel good. Nobody feels good unless you're someone who loves to race above 160. That you just don't. It hurts. It doesn't feel like it's fun. So we have to figure out where you fit depending on your age and your ability. And we make your heart strong so that you can go out and run 12, 13-minute miles at 120, 130, conversational pace,
Mm.
right? So allow yourself to find out that it's fun to do things and not that it hurts.
Very, very interesting. You keep talking about running. Vanessa, you're going to have to explain to me what that runner's high is. I've played soccer all my life. I've done triathlons. I don't think I've ever had it. I just not my favorite.
Well, that's interesting because I actually was with some friends this weekend, and one of them said, gosh, you race so well all the time. I go, no, I don't. I race well about 70% of the time,
Hmm.
but I do have disastrous races for whatever reason. It's too cold. I didn't wear the right clothes. I didn't eat right. Didn't sleep right. As you know, anyone over 50, as I'm well over 50, sleep is so important and
Hmm.
so difficult for us. So guess what? Most of the time, I don't get that runner's high, but occasionally
Hmm.
I do. And when you do, it's amazing. When I get it, it's when I'm my fittest.
Hmm.
When I'm my fittest and I could actually push above and beyond what I expect, wow, that's an amazing feeling. And I don't know if it's a mental feeling or a
Hmm.
physical feeling, but I had it a couple weeks ago on the track where I well outperformed anything I ever dreamed of. And I had reserves to go. Like
Wow.
I came around the last couple laps and said, I got stuff in the tank. Let's go, right? That's a very fun feeling to know that you actually worked out hard enough that you can do the things you want to in life. Whether it be, spiraling a football or, playing with your kids or going for a run with the dogs, to not feel like your body is a hindrance to you, but an asset.
Hmm. And did you know you were in the runner's high? Was it euphoric?
I was completely euphoric. And I have to say, somebody was talking about how happy I looked afterwards, and I go, "Oh, I was high as a kite."
Hmm.
I I mean, I came around, so a 5K in a track is 12 and 3/4 laps. I came to those last 2 laps and went, "I'm going for it. This is the fastest I've ever been.
Wow.
I can go even faster," and there was no pain whatsoever, and, it was truly phenomenal for me. And I've had a lot of great races, a lot of great tennis tournaments, a lot of great horse jumping events in my lifetime, all these kinds of things, but this was a moment that all of the training and the mental stuff all came together, and that's what you hope to see. Of course, we just saw the Olympics. And sometimes it doesn't happen. These people train for their whole lives to one moment to work. It doesn't always work that way, right?
Mm.
And you see it fall apart. But yeah, it was amazing. And I finished going, wow, that needs to happen more often.
Hmm. Very interesting. You're rare, in that you also started a nonprofit. Talk to me about
Oh.
exercise in the streets.
Well, so exercise in the streets, we are actually branching out a little bit too. It's an amazing situation. So years and years ago, I was at a national senior games and we were in Birmingham, Alabama. And I said to a couple of my friends, let's go to one of these like neighborhoods that's one of the roughest neighborhoods, in the United States. And, I'm from an area that we have some of the lowest obesity rates in the world here
Hmm.
in Silicon Valley. But so we go to Birmingham, which has the highest obesity rates for not just adults, but for children. And we're in this neighborhood that's just horrendous, right? And I have, of course, the red rental car, and everyone's watching us. And this guy comes up and starts talking to us. And I said, "Hey, yeah, we're doing these national senior games." And I sound like a complete fool to him. And I said, "Hey, a personal trainer, how about if, like, on Saturday morning, we come and give you a free exercise class?" And he goes, "Oh, yeah, you're going to do that." And I go, "Yeah." And so literally, I called an executive at Big Five and asked for mats. I asked Whole Foods for water and apples. That's all I asked for. Some DJ guy ended up coming that lived in the neighborhood. He set up music. A police officer stood at the end of the street, and I put on a free exercise class in the middle of the street in one of the worst neighborhoods you ever saw.
Wow.
And all these neighbors came out of their house and had this amazing time. And so that's how exercise in the streets happened.
Hmm.
We ended up doing it in 7 other cities. One time was scary. The rest of the time had been fantastic. Detroit was one of the funnest ones ever
Wow.
by far. And we just have a ball doing it. And then we get to talk to the community and how they can encourage each other and go forward afterwards. When COVID happened, I'd already started in my local county going into juvenile hall because I felt it was important. Obviously, kids that come work out with me are from a higher economic basis, and I wanted them to see the kind of world that I came from, the kind of world that is very scary and that you don't get much opportunity. So I would take the teenage runners and tennis players that I worked with, and we would do run clinics and exercises in the juvenile hall.
Hmm.
I met someone at Nike who said, "Hey, we'd love to give you some support. How can we help you?" And I said, "Give me shoes." So we find out the sizes of the kids before we go to juvenile hall. Someone comes up to your cell and says, "Do you want an exercise class and a run class?" If you say yes, they ask you what size shoes you have. We give you a free pair of shoes and a sweatshirt.
Wow.
That evolved to an exercise bag, toiletries, exercise equipment, a sweatshirt, and shoes
Good
as more
for you.
people donated. So we do exercise and run classes in juvenile hall, and we do those bags for every child who's a foster child in Santa Clara County. This has been a huge endeavor, and it's been amazing. And to see kids like just write me letters and thank me and thank them. They're always high end shoes, always. They're never anything that's $20. I just did amazing. We have a girls group home. And so I was to get that I got them all Jordan shoes. I got all Air Jordans from
Wow.
them. So all these 22
Wow.
girls didn't just get regular shoes, they got Air Jordans. And, so it was fantastic. And then next week, for the first time, we're going to do an exercise and run clinic in a senior center. And it's the first time we get to branch out into that area because I got some great donations through Christmas. And, it's going to be the whole other aspect that really made my company has been getting people out of wheelchairs and getting people over 70 to learn how to move their bodies. So this is a real no-brainer for me. And during COVID, of course, we had to start and stop so often that it was just like, but these people are so excited. And most of them can't even imagine having a real pair of athletic shoes, which is even funnier to me, right? Where, every kid we give them to, they know exactly what they're
Yeah.
getting because, the shoe culture is so huge for younger people.
Absolutely inspiring, Vanessa. Very, very cool. And you also have I mean, I don't know where you also have a kickboxing gym in Vegas.
Well, I used to. I sold it. It
Oh, you
didn't work
did?
out. So that went away a couple months ago.
I see. Did you ever kickbox? What?
No, but I actually trained a couple of professional boxers.
I see.
So I had that information and I was trying to figure out during the beginning of COVID how I was going to grow my companies. And so I tried that. It didn't work out just because COVID never ended and, things just didn't work out. I mean, I love Las Vegas. It was an easy flight to get there and back.
Sure.
So, instead I had to sell that.
So why write a book?
Wow. So what happened was I literally was in a grocery store and this woman was following me around listening to my conversations and she was overweight and her entire shopping cart was full of processed food and she just had that exhausted woman in her 50s look. I mean,
Mm,
there's no other way to say it. And finally she started to bug me and I said to her, "Can I help you with something? You seem to be following me." And she said that she wouldn't know what to do with the things in my cart, which were all fresh vegetables and salmon. And
mm,
she said, "I wouldn't even know how to eat that way." She goes, "You look so inspirational." And I'm so full of myself. Oh, I'm a personal trainer with my own fitness studio. And she said, "You must be expensive." And the minute she said it, well, yes, I am. I mean, there's no other way to put it, right? And I thought, if I could just inspire people a little bit, how can I do that on a less expensive basis, right? We all have to live. We all have a lifestyle we want to live. And let's be honest, when that nonprofit started, there was no donations. I have never, ever asked people for donations, which is actually the funniest part of
hmm.
when one of my clients said to me, "You have a nonprofit?" And I go, "Yeah, we've been doing these exercise bags for kids at the juvenile hall." And he goes, "Why didn't you ever ask for money?" And I go, "Because that's not my thing. I just
Mm,
don't do it." Right. And so, especially, I just had a boxing company called Elite Sports, donate some boxing gloves and stuff. I mean, it was so fascinating. I'm like, "Wow, you did? Great. Thank you." The kids will love that in the bags. Right. And I think it's just interesting about that. But I wanted to inspire more people and that's where the book comes in. Now I have an app so I can do people all over, that kind of stuff. But it's hard. I think, to have someone like me on a regular basis, that's a lot of money. That's a
mm,
lot of money. I could never afford that as a child. I learned everything I could as out of a book. I was a library kid. So that's how I learned. But there also wasn't kind of people like regular people in those books. There were athletes in the
right.
1970s and 80s. There weren't people, and I don't know, I can't relate to people that, lost 100 pounds and look amazing now because they have plastic surgery. So, let's talk about this. Women look amazing now in their 50s from plastic surgery, right? And one of the funniest things my publicist said to me, my publisher was going through the book and we were doing all the edits, and the guy was putting the photos together said, "Vanessa, none of these photos are touched." And I go, "Touched by what?" And the minute I said it, he thought, "Boy, she's an idiot." And I go, "Oh, no, no, nothing's photoshopped. Oh, gosh, no. That would like defeat the whole purpose of it." That's really hard for most people to take,
Mm,
right? I mean, we've become that social media situation where 20-year-old girls feel they need to like actually Photoshop themselves. Really? I would die to have that skin. Why would you have to Photoshop
mm,
yourself, right? And I think, I kind of like my aging sometimes. Sometimes I don't. There are times when I haven't slept for 3 nights and I hate it. That to me,
mm.
sleep is everything to me. I don't know how you feel, Joe, but boy, sleep is tough.
Yeah, the 3 pillars of health, right? Diet, exercise, and sleep. Yeah, I'm very fortunate. I sleep like a baby. I don't,
Oh, good for you.
yeah, I don't. So, do people need a trainer to get fit?
You need some kind of support system. And
Mm,
I think one of the things that the most interesting thing is about the world as we've lived through COVID and continue to is how isolation does not work for 99% of the people,
hmm,
right? It didn't even work for Ted Kaczynski, right? He still wanted to throw out letter bombs and bring people into his world. So I
yeah,
don't care which loner you want to talk about, it doesn't work, right? So we need connections to other people. So yes, you could do it on the cheap without a problem. You get a book, you can watch my videos for free on YouTube.
right,
I give people free advice on email all the time on a regular basis all over the world. When someone sends me a letter, I'm always happy to respond to them. So yes, you can, but you need to be responsible with somebody, right? If you say to your spouse, you say to your brother or sister, "Hey, I'm going to run 3 days a week. Can you kind of make sure?" And they go, "Well, how do I do that?" "Oh, I don't know. On my Garmin Connect or my Apple, you can just check it out." I mean, it's super easy to make yourself accountable,
mm,
right?
mm,
Very few people in this world are really great at being accountable all the time to themselves. So when people say, "But you are," and I go, maybe not.
hmm,
Because think about it. If I got fat, who's going to come to me as a personal trainer? Who's
right,
buying my book?
right,
If I am down at, I don't know, Domino's Pizza, eating an entire pizza, right? Then someone's going to take a picture of that and put it on social media to destroy my credibility. And I want you to. So, yes, I am accountable. I'm accountable to my clients. I got to show up for them so that they can continue on their journeys. So, even though I live a much more solitary life because I don't have kids than many people, and people see me running at like 4:30 in the morning or whatever, I'm also accountable to a lot of human beings that I work with.
yeah, very well said. I know when I started to lose the weight, I've been an athlete all my life, and you just sit there and start journaling at what you're eating every day, and it's very easy to figure, sugary sodas and stuff. Just cutting those out, and even
Right.
some of the stuffs that I knew was bad, like burgers or something, I would just eat half, and I'd exercise every day, and I lost a lot of weight in 7 months, and then I wanted another goal and I started doing triathlons. Now I had to hire a
Right.
swim coach. I had to hire,
Sure.
I had to hire somebody there. But yeah, accountability is is huge because you have to have somebody hold you accountable. It's hard to do it yourself. So that's where I'm going to introduce discipline. How does discipline play in all this?
So it's interesting about discipline. So, if you call me at night and it's like 7:30, you say, "Hey, we're all going to go out drinking tonight. Come join us," right? One more time, it's that same way I think about food. What am I doing tomorrow?
Mm,
Right? So if I got to go do a 10-mile run in the morning, if I see my first client at 6:30 in the morning, can I go out that night? No, I cannot,
hmm,
right? So that's my discipline. What are my
hmm.
responsibilities the next day? And honestly, if I don't show up for myself, right? Then I'm disappointed in myself. And I don't like disappointment, right? I love failure. Failure means I give everything I had and I failed. Oh, well, we move forward.
Hmm.
But if I do actions in my life that cause disappointment, I truly believe I was given a gift. And that gift is that I can physically do things that most 55-year-old women don't even want to attempt.
Hmm.
That's a serious gift. I shouldn't destroy the gift by a chocolate cake and a bottle of wine, right? It just doesn't make sense.
Yeah. And when you say disappointment, disappointing yourself or just others disappointed in you?
No, disappointing myself and not being able to show up to do the things in life that I want to do
Hmm.
physically and mentally, right? I don't want to disappoint myself. I think I've come to the realization that when I do things that aren't right, and we all have that, if you're second guessing yourself,
Right.
right, then maybe you should take that first idea and not do it, right? If I am second guessing, should I really spend, I don't know, let's take it, something I would never do, but should I spend $1,000 on a purse, right? If I have to think about it, it's probably not a good idea. Now, obviously, you can see behind me, nobody on listening can. I have hundreds of athletic shoes, hundreds, literally. It's my thing. I wear them for work all the time. I spend a lot of money on them, right? But it doesn't mean I go out and spend $5,000 tomorrow on them, right? So I really try to think about what I do before I do it. And then I'm not disappointed in myself.
Uh, it's interesting because it seems that you have a lot of self-discipline, you're well disciplined now, but you describe yourself at 13-year-old as quite undisciplined. You kinda gave up on
Well,
things.
Well, I did, and I think it's so interesting. For the life of me, I think it's very hard to fathom when that discipline comes off. But I saw what happened. And I think so. It's interesting with every podcaster who reads the book and takes something else differently. One of the few sentences in the book is the fact that I bought my first house at 14.
Hmm.
Now, my reward was that I could get a dog because I lived in a mobile home. And in order to get a dog, I needed to get a real house.
Hmm.
So I started to work at a very young age to save up money to get a house, to get a dog.
Wow.
So I had a guy that he was obsessed with that. And it was such a funny thing to be obsessed. Wait a minute, we're talking about everything else. And he goes, but that discipline, I go, had a reward.
Right.
That discipline had a reward. Now, think about this. I'm not going to go spend money at the 7-Eleven on candy if it's better. Because way back then, remember, we could put money in the bank at 5 and 6% interest.
Right.
So you understood saving. Now kids don't have that same thing. Now it's about investing in Bitcoin instead, right? Which is a huge gamble. But back then, compounding interest made sense to
Hmm.
us.
Hmm.
And so saving was a huge thing for me. So do I really want to spend $3 on candy when it can go in the bank and turn into $3.50 by the end of the year? Gosh, no, right? I really started to think in a different way on what is my goal? What is your goal? If you walk into my studio and you say your goal is really to run a 5K with your family at Christmas next year, I say, cool, let's go. Here we are, right? Remember, you said that to me 6 months ago. I'm not going to let you back out of what you wanted. I had a woman that said to me, her goal was to throw a football on Thanksgiving with her grandson. And I
Oh.
go, oh, we got it. We got that. No problem. And, when she first spiraled to football, it was a magical moment. She goes, I never thought I could do that at 67 years old. And I go, you got no problem. Now we're going to get you to throw some serious yardage, right?
Mm.
So he's seriously impressed and get the practice in so much that when Thanksgiving morning and everyone shows up, that you don't flub that first one off the bat, right? Because now what gets you the confidence is practice. Once you do something once, the reason that golf and tennis are such interesting sports is that everybody once in a while hits a great shot,
Hmm.
right? But the pros hit great shots all day, every day, over and over
Hmm.
because they've hit so many thousands of shots in practice, right? Same thing with a basketball player, right? A football player. So realize that was the first time this woman realized what practice does for you. Creates muscle memory and that belief system in yourself. I've thrown this football 10,000 times. I can throw it this time, right? And then all those nerves and everything else go away. So there you go.
Very interesting. And when you have your clients, how much discipline do you expect from them? Is this something that you have to teach them? Do you think is it already there?
No,
No.
they have to find that themselves, right?
Mm.
I can remind them, but I can push you in a direction. But one of the clients I have who's been with me for 10 years says, you have never said one negative thing to me about my weight or not doing my walks or anything. You've just never done it. Negativity gets us nowhere.
Mm.
If I said to you, Joe, you look really fat to me today because you didn't move this week. What are we going to do about it? I know what you want to do at that moment. You want to walk out of my studio.
Right.
What did I accomplish? Right? Nothing. That's not what I want to do. So if I have a bad run because somebody came to town and I had a couple of drinks the night before, but thought I could still race a 10K the next day and I fail, then what happens? I'm disappointed in myself. So how do I avoid that disappointment? I don't do the drinking the night before, especially if I've been getting ready. If I've been doing all of these things to get ready for this 10K and then blow it by one night, really? What was I trying to do?
Hmm.
Right? We see it with professional athletes all the time. Guys make their millions, they're NFL players, they have the wife and the kids. They go out and take a gun to a club. You worked 15, 20 years of your life to throw it all away in one moment because you wanted to be cool. Where did that get you? It's a sad story we see over and over again, right? Instead of saying, okay, let me think about this. And I don't mean think about it for like 16 seconds. I mean for 5 or 10 minutes. This really an action I want to do? And then do it. If that's the action you really think is going to get you where you want. If you're an NFL player, you want to be playing in the NFL,
That's right.
right? So, none of us can be perfect, right? I think the most important thing I've learned in the last 10 years is to stop and think of what the ramifications is about what I'm doing.
Hmm. What motivates you, Vanessa?
What motivates me? So I actually want to help people change their lives and realize they can, which I think is the most fascinating thing ever. We right now, the nonprofit, we've been able to put 3 kids into private school.
Wow.
So I think, this has been such a huge thing for me. I really believe I went to Catholic school for 12 years. It changed my life. I was
Hmm.
on scholarship the most of the time. And it allowed me to get discipline that I didn't want to hear from priests and from nuns. And the difference between private school and public school is the discipline factor, in my opinion.
Hmm.
So when I've had kids in the foster system that I've got to know a little bit and they get into a stable household, if they're near a private school that I can get them a scholarship, I will get that for them if possible. I have a couple of social workers that I work with to get this done. We have 2 kids that have recently been adopted by their foster families. It's just phenomenal. Really, really, that's like, wow, we just changed someone's life.
Hmm. And so then how do you measure success
For me or for them?
for
For me
you?
personally,
For you.
that I actually was able to show up for someone and help them with
Hmm.
nothing coming back to me, right? I get nothing, and there's nothing that's going to come back to me. They're not going to give me $1,000. They're not going to help me run my race. They're not going to clean my house. Nothing comes back to me. That to me is the success, and it's true service work, right? And I think it's so interesting when somebody recently talked about a kid that we have that was in juvenile hall. He was looking at an assault charge. He was going to go away for a long time. We were able to hire him a lawyer. He's now in his second year at Sacramento State, for gosh sakes, instead of
Wow.
going, to prison. And, he made this big statement in a class and wrote an essay about me. And he goes, and I thought it was like this huge organization that had helped me. And she had these kids, but he goes, it's her. And he goes, and I had no idea. And why would she help? Why would she help this Mexican kid from East San Jose? Was his thought process. And he goes, and all she said to me was, I could, I could. That's a gift to be able to help somebody for no reason whatsoever. That's a gift.
It is a gift and it's so rewarding. And oh, the old cliche, the best things in life are free. Um, Vanessa Bogenholm, just an absolute pleasure talking to you. Thank you so much for your time. I am so happy there was one great Unabomber reference. I usually don't have those in my conversation, but that was that was great. So how can we find you? How can we get your book? And by the way, your YouTube is great. You've got a lot of great videos there. You go through
Thanks.
workouts. I enjoy your social media. How can we get in touch with you,
Thank you.
Vanessa?
So, fitness-23.com will lead you to everything about me. Also, trainwithv.com and It's Your Body, Move It, Love It, Live. Available on every platform, Amazon, Audible, everything. You really want to hear my voice for so many hours, you can do it on Audible, but It's Your Body, Move It, Love It, Live. Not just my story, but the story of my clients and how they got to feeling better and getting out of pain.
Absolute pleasure, Vanessa. If I'm ever in the area, we'll get together, have a cup of coffee. You know my real last name, Panone now, so there's no mistaken with that. Thank you
Yes.
so much for your time today. It was a pleasure.
Thanks, Joe. Have a good day.
Be
Bye.
well. Bye now. Thank you for listening and or viewing Joey Pinz Discipline Conversations. Please share this episode with one or two of your friends who you think may benefit from the episode. Our website, www.joeypins.com. There you'll find lots of resources and you could join our mailing list. Please follow us on all our social media, Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. Podcast information, the video version of our podcast is on YouTube. Please subscribe. Audio is on all major podcasting platforms. Please follow them. And if you like it, please consider giving 5-star rating. Would really appreciate that. Would you like to financially support the podcast? You can go to our Patreon site. Consider $5, $10, or $20 a month. There's all kind of plans that we have there. There's like a one-time payment. What is this podcast episode worth to you? $25, $50, $100, $500, $1,000, $5,000. You be the judge. You can go to our PayPal account to do that as well. Thank you again for listening or watching Joey Pinz Discipline Conversations.